All right, maybe we can go ahead, get
Let's get
started.
started, absolutely. So hello, everyone, and welcome. We are so happy for you to join us today. My name is Dr. Patty O'Malley, and I am a staff psychologist and the coordinator for eating and body image issues. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'll be presenting today with my colleague, Adam, who will now introduce himself.
Great. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name's Adam. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a post-MSW fellow here at CAPS. Looking forward to spending time with you all today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. Our goals for today are to provide suggestions on how parents can assist their students and themselves to effectively transition to the University of Michigan. We will also be sharing information about counseling and psychological services, or CAPS. This webinar is being recorded and the chat function has been disabled. We would love to answer your questions, so as they arise, please submit them via the Q&A feature, and we'll be sure to address them at the end of our presentation.
Okay, so here's an overview of our session today. We'll be touching on a number of common transitions that both students and parents experience, as well as some tips on how to navigate these transitions. We'll also provide information about various resources, such as our services here at CAPS. And as Patty mentioned, there will be some time at the end of the presentation for addressing any questions you all have.
As we look at this image and start our presentation, we encourage you to take a moment to pause and reflect. Take a few deep breaths and think about your student. Think about where they are right now in their development. Reflect on what's important for them right now. What are their interests, their values? Think about their worries, what they're not so sure about, how high school has been for them, their challenges and their successes. Also think about what got them here, to this point, where they're preparing to start their undergraduate careers at U of M. What are they excited about? What are their strengths, their hopes? What are your hopes for them? What conversations might you want to have with your student prior to them leaving? Keep in mind what kind of support they might find beneficial. And we encourage you to continue to breathe throughout this presentation and to keep all of your hopes for your student in mind as they continue to transition to U of M.
So those are really helpful reflective questions to have in mind, not only as we go through this presentation, as Patty mentioned, but also for you to continue reflecting on in your own time to best support your student. Now, let's get into the common transitions that many first-year students often navigate. Leaving home for college can bring about many new experiences for your student. Depending on circumstances and environment, it may be the first time your student will be in person for school in about a year and a half due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Readjusting to in-person interactions may be stressful and feel awkward, especially when it's with entirely new people. It may also be your student's first experience living on their own. This can involve leaving behind family, friends, community, and familiar surroundings. Depending on your student, they may have a different way of saying goodbye or keeping in touch. For many students and parents, getting ready to leave for college might be a time of mixed emotions, such as feeling sad, excited, and anxious all at once. Acknowledging these feelings they have and providing a listening, supportive ear can be very helpful. But don't be surprised if they tell you they're fine and ready to go. They may not want to acknowledge their own feelings or acknowledge that you might be having some as well. So of course, missing home and familiar surroundings is another common transition among students. This may be felt sooner by some students, and for others, it may be experienced later. U of M will be a new home base in many ways. Students will be navigating new environments, resources, and people on campus, all of which will become more familiar with time and help to contribute to a sense of home at U of M. Other transitions for students include lifestyle and routine adjustments, such as waking themselves up for class. This may be new to some who are used to having parents or others at home assist with this. This is just one example of students transitioning to increased independence and responsibilities. Related to that are other general adjustments to having a new routine. Whereas high school typically provides more structure, students will be learning how to balance the numerous responsibilities that come with being a college student. New routines often involve things such as effective time management, getting enough sleep, managing finances or budgeting, and finding a good balance of both work and fun. And as it relates to living situations, some students may be living with a roommate for the first time, and getting along may not always be easy. While this can be a great opportunity to make a new friend, it's also common for students to face some challenges with this process, such as learning how to share a space, adapting to someone else's living habits, and learning how to communicate effectively and resolve conflict. Other interpersonal adjustments include making new friends. Some students may be coming to campus with some friends, whereas others may not have any connections or friends just yet. This can be an exciting, but also anxiety-provoking transition to meet new people. There are a number of opportunities for students to find friend groups, and we'll touch on strategies to consider in the coming slides. And finally, along with making new friends, students will have the opportunity to connect with people from diverse backgrounds. One of the great things about college life is meeting students from various backgrounds and cultures that may differ from your students. It may be new for your student to meet people with different identities than their own, but an important part of the college experience is being able to connect with others from different walks of life and different worldviews. We learn not only in the classroom, but also from each other, which is a crucial part of living into the values of multiculturalism and inclusivity. Now, Patty will get into some other common changes and stressors involved with transitions to college.
And next, we're going to be watching a video. Before we do that, we want to be sure to recognize the artwork and images that are on each slide of this presentation. The art was created by an undergraduate student in Stamp's School of Art and Design, and also featured on our first year experience guide, which you have access to and will be talked about more later in the presentation. We'll have that link. We'll share that with you as well. For this video, this is a CAPS video that was conceived, planned, written, and acted by our CAPS Student Advisory Board, which is a really great group of students that get together each year and really advise us at CAPS. This video was created pre-pandemic and focuses on the variety of ways in which U of M students may struggle with mental health and the multiple ways that CAPS provides services.
I'm going home this weekend to see my family, but I feel like such a failure. They've given so much to get me to this point. I just want to make them proud.
They're going to ask me how I'm doing. What am I supposed to tell them? Made it to the US, to this top university. But now, I can't even get through these readings. I don't know what to do.
Everyone is so excited for break. I haven't been able to go home since I came out. I feel like I lost my family. I feel so alone.
My friend, she's struggling with depression, and I don't know how to help. I'm feeling drained, and I'm worried about her safety, but she told me I can't tell anyone. Should I tell someone? Am I doing enough?
If I told anyone about my anxiety, what would my coach think? What would my teammates think? What if they think I can't perform? I feel sick to my stomach. I have so many people depending on me, and I don't want to let them down. I'm just not okay.
All right. Thanks so much, Patty. That video is a really nice backdrop to talking more about the common concerns that students bring into CAPS. And below are the top 5 reasons that first-year students have self-identified why they visit CAPS. So anxiety is the top reason that first-year students seek out help at CAPS. You can likely imagine the number of things a new student would be anxious about, whether that's adjusting to a new environment, navigating new relationships, or getting used to a demanding academic schedule. Depression is the next most common concern reported by first-year students. Sometimes all that students are adjusting to and balancing can lead to distress, decreased motivation, and changes in energy or interest in things once pleasurable. These are just a few signs that a student might be experiencing some symptoms of depression. Emotion management is another common struggle that often accompanies the stress and overwhelm of adapting to college. Every student comes to campus with their own unique strengths and resilience, but there are times when additional help can bolster these tools to regulate emotions. And stress goes hand in hand with many of these concerns. It's hard to think of any college student who's completely stress-free. Managing stress can look like many different things, but when it becomes difficult to manage, it can impact the ability for students to do what they want and need in their daily lives. And finally, eating and body image concerns are also commonly reported at CAPS. These can impact a student's self-esteem, relationship with self and others, and sometimes even their physical health. It's important to keep in mind that these are just some commonly reported concerns, but there are many other aspects of mental health that first-year students may struggle with or have concerns about.
And as a gentle reminder, if your student faces any of the concerns mentioned thus far, it's important for parents to normalize and validate their concerns. It can be very powerful for parents to validate that the transitions they're facing are common, they're not alone, and challenges can be worked through. The following slides will include tips on how to help your student transition.
So our first tip is to encourage students to try and connect with others to make friends. There are countless events held on campus that aim to increase student connection. And this year, there will be some events that are held in person and some that will potentially remain virtual. Some examples include Festifall, Northfest, and Escapade, which occur during the first few weeks of school to provide opportunities to engage and connect with all of the student organizations on campus. It's a great way to get involved in a particular passion area, meet new people, and try something new. Additional tips to encourage students to keep in mind include branching out from familiar friend circles. For example, being the first one to say hello, being flexible and adjusting schedules when possible, and to consider joining a club or organization. A helpful starting point to consider is trying to connect with others who have shared values and interests, such as in music, athletics, intramural sports, volunteering, or career interests. Now, Patty will take us into our second tip.
Second tip is reaching out for support and knowing that we are all in this together. That your student is part of a campus community of others with similar stressors and concerns, joys, and successes. Some of your students may not have a lot of practice in asking for help, especially those who did quite well in high school. We encourage students to communicate their experiences and talk about their concerns and needs. Attending office hours, talking with graduate student instructors or GSIs and professors can be very beneficial. Seeking out support in this way can be challenging for some students due to stigma, shame, embarrassment, perfectionism, cultural norms. While these concerns are real and need to be validated and normalized, frame asking for help as a sign of success and not weakness. Resources are available and other students access them regularly. Professors and GSIs cannot help students if they don't know what help is needed. For students looking for tips on how to talk to a professor, we have a video on that topic, and the YouTube link will be shared at the end of the presentation.
So as Patty discussed, getting support can look like a lot of things. And sometimes students may need support for their own mental health, or they might be concerned about a friend's mental health. It's important to know that research shows students will often first turn to each other or other non-professional sources of support for help. But there are times when additional support can be helpful. So knowing the available resources is important. With this in mind, give permission and encouragement, as Patty mentioned, for students to reach out to friends, resident advisors, academic advisors, and/or CAPS counselors. Keep in mind CAPS services, which will also be discussed later in this presentation as well. But students can schedule an initial consultation online through our website. And they can also keep in mind our counselor on duty service, which is one of our crisis services that allows students to see a counselor the same day that they call in to help navigate a self-identified crisis. We also have an after-hours service, which is another crisis service that connects students directly with a mental health professional via phone call after our normal business hours. And as mentioned before, given that students often first turn to each other for support, it's important to know that these peer support options below are offered as well. CAPS has a peer counseling service, which allows students to talk one-on-one with a trained peer about their concerns. And the Wolverine Support Network is another peer-led peer support option that is overseen by CAPS, which offers a group support experience rather than a one-on-one interaction. Our next tip will go over additional ways to support general mental well-being.
The fourth tip is for students to be creative and proactive about taking care of their mental health. CAPS created Go Blue, a new student's guide to surviving and thriving at U of M, mental health tips, which includes numerous suggestions for students as they transition to U of M. Topics include money and time management, making friends, living with roommates, sleep, eating, including information about our multidisciplinary eating disorder treatment team, feeling lost and overwhelmed, managing conflict, many others. It is an excellent resource, and we encourage you all to check it out, and it can be found at the link on this slide. We also encourage use of our apps and online resources. They are free and designed to support student mental health. They include breathing exercises, tips on sleep, managing mood, many others. Students, like many of us, are on our phones and devices pretty often. So why not be on our phones and use resources that will help us build skills to more easily navigate life stressors? The apps and online resources could add to their toolbox of services.
So our last general tip is to just remember the basics. Taking time for adjusting is important to establishing a sense of belonging and groundedness. With everything students are asked to do, it can be easy to lose sight of the most fundamental elements of wellness, such as getting enough sleep, maintaining a balanced diet, taking time for exercise, and having fun connecting with others. Many of these things fall under the umbrella of self-care. And of course, everyone who comes to Michigan is highly academically driven, but academic success isn't possible without the proper self-care we need. It's important to remember that part of being the leaders and best, which is a mantra from our U of M's fight song, is doing what we can to be at our best. And now we'll transition into talking about the adjustments that parents may encounter as well.
Okay, enough about them. What about the parents? You are also going through your own transition. So once again, we'll take a brief moment to pause and reflect. Take another deep breath and consider how their transition has been so far. What are some parenting wins you can be proud of? And what areas might you want to revisit? Pause and congratulate yourself, acknowledging that your student is about to start at the University of Michigan. And it took a lot of work for all of you to get to this point. Consider if there's any support you might need. Can you prioritize taking care of yourself so you can be present to support your student? How do you want to show up during this very exciting time of change and transition? Again, we encourage you to prioritize taking care of yourselves as you support the well-being of your student.
So during your reflection in the previous slide, you may have noticed yourself thinking about some of the items listed here on this slide. For some parents, this is the first time having a child go to college. And some of you may be first-time empty nesters. This can be exciting, stressful, sad. You may even feel a sense of loss. The important thing to know here is that there's no one right way to feel. And it's very common and expected to have mixed emotions about this transition that you are going through yourself. The next slide will go into strategies that may help alleviate some of your own anxieties you may be feeling.
So how can you do something to help? First, trust your past parenting. You worked hard to get your student here. Support their independence and decision-making. For transition age youth, this is an important developmental stage and one that can be navigated with a balance of trusting your student and also checking in and being available for support and advice. Anticipate some anxiety and ups and downs. We encourage you to validate your students' feelings and communicate openly. Discuss realistic expectations. Many students at U of M are used to being in the top 1 to 5% of their high school classes. An imposter phenomenon, or feeling like they're a fraud who doesn't belong, is common. We encourage you to focus your questions on courses and what's being learned versus grades. Decreasing comparison of your students, their performance against their peers, can also be a very helpful strategy. Also consider expectations regarding managing busy schedules, finances, and what holidays and breaks may look like. Some students will want to sleep for a majority of breaks. Others will be connecting with friends from home. Others will not know what to do with themselves with less structured time after having such a packed schedule during the semester. For some of you, as Adam said, this may be the first time you're sending a student to college. Others may have prior experience. We encourage all of you to know when to intervene. You know your student. If it is seeming like they're not themselves, that they're needing support, please encourage them to utilize resources. It is important for you to know the resources and also know your limits, for you to know when additional support is needed for your student. And also, if any of you are finding that you need support, seeking out your own help can be a great way to model help seeking for your student.
So recognizing when your student may be struggling is an important part of knowing when to intervene, as Patty said. This is a time to offer support and/or provide recommendations to seek out supportive services, such as CAPS. It can help to normalize and promote help seeking by stressing that it's a strength to take advantage of resources. So what do we at CAPS offer? We provide free, confidential, solution-focused therapy to currently enrolled students through one-on-one, couples, and group therapy options. Our diverse staff is comprised of generalist clinicians that are equipped to help students with a variety of concerns that may arise during their time on campus. We're located at the Michigan Union on the 4th floor, and we also have embedded counselors in particular schools on campus who currently can be contacted via email. Our hours of operation and contact information are also listed here. And you can find more information by checking out our For Parents section on our website.
Thanks, Adam. Our diverse staff is passionate about college mental health. Each of us has advanced training in social work or psychology and are dedicated to working with U of M students. In addition to the services Adam mentioned, we also provide topic and identity-specific programming. We have groups on perfectionism, social anxiety, eating and body image issues, groups specific to undergraduate students, others for graduate students, men's groups, workshops on anxiety, body image, self-compassion. We also provide lunch series for international students and students of color with our campus partners. We also have online mental health screenings for students who want a better understanding of what they're experiencing.
So it's important to plan ahead if your student has pre-existing mental health conditions or could benefit from longer-term therapy. Identifying therapists in the Ann Arbor community, ideally before the academic year begins, is a helpful first step. There are many resources to help with this process, such as the 2 links listed below. Students may be reluctant to talk with parents about seeking therapy in the community due to worries about finances or insurance, so it can help to normalize the help-seeking process, as we've said. There still also may be ambivalence of parents, family, and guardians regarding therapy. We encourage you to have an open dialogue with your student about their concerns and the significance of seeking support to help your student maintain wellness and be successful while at U of M. It's also important to know that sometimes mental health concerns can impact academic performance. Students who have or suspect they might have a mental health condition that impacts their academics may also consider contacting the Services for Students with Disabilities, or SSD office, to inquire about academic accommodations, such as extended testing time.
Here are some links to other videos created by our CAPS Student Advisory Board, including topics on how to help a friend, how to initiate conversation with a professor, and many others. As Adam mentioned previously, in addition to our central office, we have counselors who are embedded in schools and colleges. Some of these are College of Engineering, Kinesiology, Business, just to name a few. These counselors are highly trained members of CAPS staff who also know quite a bit about the culture of the school and college in which they are embedded. For more information, please check out this website listed here. There's also additional resource to help locate off-campus mental health providers. Another good resource.
Okay, so as we wrap up, please keep in mind that the Division of Student Life has many different units other than CAPS that can be of assistance for students during their time at U of M. As a few examples, the University Health Service, or UHS, is where students can schedule a doctor's visit. The Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs, or MESA, provides programming and support around diversity and social justice initiatives. And the Spectrum Center offers many resources to support the LGBTQ+ community. Encourage your student to learn more about these various units and how they can be helpful during their time here at the university.
Thanks so much. We'll now transition to the question and answer portion. Feel free to add questions via the Q&A feature and we'll address them. And if you prefer, you're also welcome to email CAPS at the email address included on the slide. This email address is also on our website as well. So Adam and I will start with the question that was submitted by a parent prior to the presentation. And the question is, for students who are more introverts, best practices to make sure they are trying and do find their people. It's a great question. I'll start us off. We want to normalize that extroversion and introversion are on a spectrum. Extroverts tend to get energized from being with others. Introverts tend to recharge their batteries with some alone or quiet time, kind of prefer 1 or 2 good friends. Again, all this is on a spectrum and there are strengths for both introversion and extroversion. A few things we want to point out that is over time, campus becomes more familiar. Some people find their people right away, others it takes some time. It can be good to consider what has helped them in the past and what can be generalized to U of M. Encourage doing research on the Maize and Blue pages. to learn about student organizations before arriving on campus. And encourage your student to seek out a couple of groups during Festival. Attending residence hall events, especially the first few weeks, could help because the focus will be on getting to know one another. If your student is wanting company at meal times, encourage them to reach out to someone in their hall. Maybe your student is the one who reaches out, and by helping themselves, helps others as well. Also, in addition to clubs and athletics, talking to others in classes, participating in group projects, these are all ways for students to meet friends. It's all about being creative and reaching out.
Great. Yeah. And, you know, in addition to what Patty mentioned, can help for students to really reflect on the ways in which they've benefited from interactions with others in the past. So being intentional about assessing the pros of reaching out to others helps to maintain a balanced mindset, especially if your student finds himself focusing on the cons or the worst case scenarios of reaching out to someone. It's also important to try and embrace realistic expectations for this. So for example, knowing that making one to two good friends is okay. And as Patty said, it can take time to build friendships, many friendships. So, you know, along with this is also maybe establishing goals to step outside of one's comfort zone. So for example, a goal of one time a month, maybe doing something new that your student doesn't typically do as a way to kind of to branch out. Also during social events, those who are more reserved can try to look for other introverts or those who might be at the edge of the room as a way to find their people to connect with. But it's also just important to know that there's nothing wrong with scheduling alone time. Sometimes we need that to recharge, as Patty said, and so allowing yourself or allowing your student to do that is actually a good practice of setting boundaries.
We've got some questions that came in through the Q&A. Thank you so much. So we'll start with the first one. Do you have any resources to help with executive functioning or executive function weaknesses? Another great question. So I'll get us started. So at CAPS, you know, we mentioned in the presentation, we are trained as generalists. And with that, some of us on staff have certain areas of kind of extra interest or expertise. Mine, for example, is eating and body image issues. So I'm very passionate about that work, in addition to the generalist work that I feel privileged to do with U of M students. And so some of our colleagues have more interest and expertise in working with students with executive functioning concerns. A lot of great resources. And so also we work closely with SSD, Services for Students with Disabilities. They do a lot of good work there too. So I would say that's a really great thing if your student is interested in that. When they schedule an initial consultation, if they like to do that at CAPS, just mention that, and then hopefully they'll be able to get connected with some of the providers that have more of that focus and emphasis.
You know, and just going off of what Patty said, you know, a lot of what we do at CAPS is also working on coping skills, you know, generalist kind of strategies to help with executive functioning. There are also times when students can benefit from a visit to UHS, you know, to talk to a doctor or psychiatrist, just as an additional assessment to see if any medication would be necessary or helpful. And that is something that we at CAPS can do as well. We can write referrals for students who come and visit to schedule an appointment with UHS. We would send that referral over. So something else to kind of keep in mind.
Absolutely. And
so, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, and we have training as CAPS staff to work with students, and yeah, there's so many, it's so common for students to think that they'll be able to really benefit from getting some supports in these areas. So absolutely, it's very important.
So I'm happy to take the next question and just kind of read it off here. So someone asked, are all of the services on campus for CAPS covered either under the health services fee or covered for fully enrolled students? So the answer to that is for any currently enrolled student, CAPS is a free service. I mean, technically it's paid as part of the tuition that's paid. So in that sense, it's not, but there's no additional kind of copay or it's not billed through insurance or anything like that. It's part of the access to services that your student gets by paying tuition here. So hopefully that answers the question, Patty. I don't know if there's anything else you would add to that though.
No, I think that's it. Yep, our services are available for students who are currently enrolled at no charge.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another question we have is, even if a student doesn't have a formal diagnosis, but thinks they may have a mental health concern that affects them academically, can they contact the Services for Students with Disabilities? If so, how can they go about doing that? And yeah, my initial is absolutely yes. Our colleagues at Services for Students with Disabilities, or SSD, are just lovely people who are very passionate about working with students to really try to support them to get the supports they need to be successful at U of M. So absolutely, feel free to reach out to SSD. They may say, the students need to come back to CAPS if they need to get some sort of diagnosis or some sort of paperwork done. Other times, students are encouraged to contact their community provider if they have a provider from home, a physician or a counselor that can help them with any registration of paperwork. So there's a lot of different ways of going about it. They can also be referred to UHS. So we work closely together as units to try to support students to reduce any barriers and provide supports. To contact SSD, you're welcome to just Google, UMich SSD. You'll be able to find them. You can send an email, can call. They're quite accessible.
Not much more to add to what Patty said. I think just in terms of the process of contacting, a little bit more information about that. As far as I know, on their website, there's just on the front landing page, there's an intake form that a student would need to just click on and fill out, and then they would schedule an appointment with a intake coordinator at SSD to further talk about kind of what accommodations the student might want. And at that point, I think that's sort of where the decision comes of what kind of paperwork would be needed, or if they would need to meet with us at CAPS for any further kind of help with that. So. Okay, so I can read. It looks like we got another question that came in. This person said or asked, looks like, so may I suggest that YouTube videos and books by renowned psychologist Dr. Russell Barkley are quite insightful regarding executive function. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that recommendation.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love it. I mean, and this is what we're trying to encourage is, try to encourage all the wisdom that you all have as parents, as caregivers, to be shared with the community. We consider ourselves members of a campus community where we're really trying to support students in surviving, thriving, enjoying their time, and just kind of making sure that they're working day by day to get their goals met and to be successful U of M students. So absolutely, this is an excellent example of parents, caregivers coming together to share resources to support that community of caring. So I'll just say it one more time. So YouTube videos and books by renowned psychologist Dr. Russell Barkley for executive functioning resources. Thank you for that suggestion. So that's what we have right now in the Q&A. If there are any other things that are on your mind, other things you're wondering, feel free to add those to the Q&A. And also, again, feel free to email CAPS. We'll be more than welcome to provide any support and answer any questions and see what we can do to help support you as you support your students in their transition to U of M. Okay, well, I think we will wrap up. And again, thank you so much for your time today, for your participation. And just wish you all the best, wish your students all the best, and welcome to Michigan, and go Blue.